Imagine a woman in Tokyo, confidently navigating her day in Japanese, polite, restrained, with an almost imperceptible bow in her demeanor. Later that evening, she switches to English in a conversation with a foreign friend. Her tone becomes more casual, her gestures broader, her laughter louder. She has not simply translated her words, she has shifted her character. This transformation isn't just cultural, it's psychological. Speaking different languages can deeply affect how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. This isn't a rare experience confined to a few, it's a widespread phenomenon. Research into bilingualism and multilingualism reveals that switching between languages doesn't just alter our mode of communication. It reshapes our identity, affects our decision-making, and even influences our emotions. Language is more than a tool of expression. It's a lens through which we view the world. Each language carries its own cultural context, history, and social norms. When we speak a different language, we don't just change the words we use, we adapt to the patterns of thought embedded in that language. Take, for instance, Russian speakers. In Russian, there are no fewer than 10 words to describe different shades of blue. This linguistic diversity encourages Russian speakers to notice subtle variations in color that English speakers might overlook. Conversely, in some indigenous languages, cardinal directions like north, south, east, and west are embedded into their speech, pushing speakers to be constantly aware of their orientation in space. These linguistic quirks do more than just influence perception, they influence cognition, forcing people to think in ways that they might not if they were monolingual. It's often said that multilingual people feel like they have different personalities depending on the language they speak. Studies bear this out. In some cases, bilinguals report feeling more assertive, formal, or emotional when speaking one language versus another. This phenomenon stems from the cultural norms and values embedded within each language. For example, when speaking Spanish, known for its emotional expressiveness, a speaker might feel more passionate or open compared to when they speak a more restrained language like Japanese. Psycholinguists refer to this as frame shifting. Each language brings with it a set of social cues and expectations, influencing not only how we communicate, but how we present ourselves. In English, you might find yourself encouraged to be more direct and assertive, while in Korean, the same person might become more deferential and nuanced in their approach. These shifts affect not just social interactions, but the speaker's inner sense of self. Language also plays a key role in how we process and experience emotions. Bilinguals often report that they feel less emotionally involved when speaking a non-native language. The psychological distance created by using a foreign language can desensitize emotions, allowing for more detached, rational decision-making. For example, a study found that bilinguals are more likely to make utilitarian decisions, opting for the greater good even if it requires a personal sacrifice, when reasoning in their second language. The emotional detachment can provide a buffer against biases and fears, but it also highlights how deeply language shapes our emotional states. The relationship between language and thought has been the subject of deep inquiry for centuries. Linguist Benjamin Lee Whorf argued that language determines thought, a theory known as linguistic relativity, or the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. While modern researchers tend to view Whorf's hypothesis as too rigid, there is growing evidence that language does indeed influence cognition. For instance, languages that have no future tense, such as Chinese, encourage speakers to think about time differently than languages like English or French, that do distinguish between present and future. As a result, speakers of these futureless languages often exhibit greater financial responsibility and better health outcomes because they do not perceive the future as separate or distant. They see it as a continuation of the present. On a neurological level, the cognitive flexibility required to switch between languages strengthens the brain's executive functions, such as attention control, task switching, and working memory. Bilingual individuals often show greater mental agility and resilience to cognitive decline as they age, as their brains are regularly exercised by the demands of managing multiple languages. However, this cognitive flexibility extends beyond purely intellectual tasks. It can influence behavior as well. When a person speaks a second language, they often feel more aware of their social surroundings, more attuned to how their behavior aligns with cultural norms associated with that language. This sensitivity alters their personality and decision-making processes, making language switching an act of cultural as well as linguistic adaptation. The impact of language on the mind goes far beyond vocabulary or grammar. Language is tied to culture, identity, and thought. To speak another language is to adopt a different worldview, and for bilinguals, moving between languages can feel like moving between different selves. It alters perceptions, reshapes personality traits, and influences how we navigate the world around us. As we grow more interconnected, the role of multilingualism becomes increasingly significant. By understanding how languages influence our character and mindset, we gain insight into the complexities of human identity itself. Speaking another language, in essence, means living another version of your life, one that shifts with the words you choose and the thoughts that language evokes. Thank you for spending time with us through Spookscope today. Feel free to share your knowledge and wisdom in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. Until next time, my dear spooker, stay curious.